Hello, you're listening to Shoot the Hostage. My name's Sarah, and together with my partner Dan, we are a movie podcast where we talk about 8 different films per season based around a specific theme. Now, if you're hearing my voice, that means it's my choice of theme this season. But before we get stuck in, I do want to mention we get quite spoilery, so please bear that in mind. We don't want to ruin the film for you, so if you haven't seen it, maybe go away and then come back. If you like what you hear and you would like to help us out, there are a number of ways you can do that. The absolute easiest one is to just recommend us to a friend. If you want to go the extra mile, a 5-star review on Spotify would be hugely appreciated. A review on your podcast player of choice would also be hugely helpful. And if you really, really want to help us, we've got a Patreon, which is £3 a month, and you get access to a ton of extra content in the form of reviews of new cinema releases, new streaming releases. You get to see the lineup of the season ahead of time, and we do a wrap show at the end of every season. But all of that aside, I just want to say thank you for listening, and let's get stuck in.
We are continuing our trap season. Your trap season.
Mine.
Yours,
all mine.
Yes, all yours. Where are we trapped this week, Sarah?
Well, obviously we've had the spoiler warning at the top of the show, I'm guessing. So
we haven't recorded that intro yet, but we will do. Thanks for the reminder.
Shush. Nobody else needs to know that, Dan. So, spoiler warning. Well, like several people are kind of trapped in this, aren't they?
Yes.
In different ways.
Yep, I would agree with that.
And somebody is trapped right at the very end.
I would argue that everyone in this movie is trapped.
Oh, well, there you go then.
On some level.
You've got a better answer than me. You're justifying my choice for me.
I don't think we've spoiled anything yet.
Okay.
But should we get straight into it then? Let's talk about Ex Machina.
No. Please pronounce it correctly. You'll drive me insane.
Some people do call it Ex Machina.
It's Ex Machina.
But how do you know that?
Because it's from the phrase Deus Ex Machina.
What phrase?
What phrase?
What does that mean?
It means God from the machine.
Ah, okay.
Which comes from the Greek tragedies. Really, really, really old plays in Greece.
Okay.
Whereby, more often than not, somebody playing a god would be lowered from a literal platform, hence the machine, to solve all of the characters' problems for them.
Okay, that doesn't happen in this movie. Not literally.
No, but that's where the phrase comes from, Deus Ex Machina.
Okay, so you've proved me wrong. It's definitely Ex Machina.
Yes.
Right, got it. 2015, this movie. Mm-hmm. It's almost a decade old now.
I can't believe how quick time flies. I feel like this came out 5 years ago. What the hell?
It does feel like it came out 5 years ago, doesn't it?
Yeah. I feel like it's something that's held up super well.
Agreed.
Because obviously technology has come on in leaps and bounds, but we're still not quite there yet.
Well, I mean, we could.
Well, people probably are, and we just don't know about it.
I don't know what you mean in terms of AI.
Yeah.
I don't think
we're not quite there.
Well, look, are we going to get straight into the technological aspects of this film, or do you want to skirt around that and do some intro stuff first?
Do the intro stuff.
Okay, what intro stuff are we doing?
Well, it's directed by Alex Garland.
Alex G.
Mr. G.
Mr. G.
It's his first directorial outing.
Oh, would you believe it, actually? This is his first directorial debut. That's a terrible
His
sentence.
First debut.
God.
That's moot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks stunning.
It's incredible. I mean, obviously, most well known in the 90s as a novelist.
Yeah.
Wrote The Beach.
Which I've read.
Which you've read and is better than the movie, apparently.
I mean, the books generally are, aren't they? But yes, well, yeah. I enjoyed the book more than I enjoyed the movie, even though the movie has Tilda Swinton in it.
I quite like the movie. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's fine. I think it's all right.
It is fine.
Yeah.
And the premise is really interesting. And then it's got some really strange choices, like the video game bit.
Yeah.
that are really jarring. But it's not bad.
Yeah. Oh, so he wrote that book
Yep.
in, I want to say 96 or 97.
Sure. I've got no idea.
Got made into a movie not long after that, maybe 2001, I want to say The Beach came out. There or thereabouts.
Ooh. No, wait. When was 28 Days Later?
That was about 2002 or 3, I think. I want to say 202.
I thought The Beach was after that.
I don't know. I've got memories of listening to that fucking All Saints track when I worked in a factory.
Oh shit!
Which could
yeah.
only have been 2000 or 2001.
Oh my god! Yeah, you've just unlocked a core memory.
Oh god, that song.
Early 2000s.
Yeah, local
wow.
radio just fucking pumps the shit out of that. So he started with The Beach, or
Yep.
he wrote the novel. He didn't write the screenplay for the movie. He just wrote a novel,
Okay.
which was adapted into a screenplay. A producer who works with Danny Boyle, Andrew MacDonald, apparently Garland approached MacDonald, not old MacDonald, or Ronald MacDonald, not from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
No, the clown.
Yeah.
Let's get this right.
He approached Andrew MacDonald and said, I've got an idea for a zombie movie, daytime, it's a virus, they run, it's completely different to your normal type of zombie movie. Andrew MacDonald went, okay, great, write it for me. Came 28 days later. And then he's writing movies. He's writing screenplays for movies, I think, for the next probably 10 years, I want to say.
Sure.
As well as writing novels. I think he also wrote a book called The Tesseract, which I believe was also adapted into a movie.
Oh, okay.
I did see it on Letterboxd, and it had like a very B-movie type poster. So I'm not sure. I've never heard of it, so it might be good, it might be terrible.
I
really
have
no idea,
knowledge. The posters can fool you, though.
The posters can fool you, and sometimes you can have fun with a terrible movie. I'm not saying it is terrible, but it looks shit from the poster.
Okay.
So he's writing screenplays. He obviously did the screenplay for Sunshine, which Danny Boyle directed, which we watched quite recently.
Within the last year. I always forget how much I enjoy that film. I've only seen it maybe 3 times.
I think I've only seen it 3 or 4 times. Yeah.
It's so good.
It's incredible.
Would you say that was underrated? Because people didn't go nuts for it on release, did they?
I don't think it did very well at the box office, particularly in America. It may have done better here. I remember someone trying to sell me a dodgy copy in Camden, which I definitely did not buy.
That's Camden for you.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it came out about 2007, that one. But you might be right. It might be underrated. It might be underrated in kind of normal people's circles, but maybe rated correctly
in this house.
And, movie nerds circles.
I think it's great.
It's excellent. It's a different type of sci-fi movie. I think a lot of people kind of really like it up until the third act, and I understand it. I understand where they're coming from. But for me, that third act is necessary for the type of story that they're telling.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly fitting.
I think it works fine.
Yeah.
What does he do after Sunshine then? So we're at 2007 now.
He adapted the book of Never Let Me Go.
Ooh, oh, that was a book first, was it?
It was based on book.
It's based on book. Oh, you got there before me.
I've never read the book. I don't know much about it. But yeah, he adapted that and wrote the screenplay. So it wasn't his story, but it does have a lot of the hallmarks of the kind of themes that he likes to visit.
Yeah, we watched that the other night, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
It was funny because I said, we've ticked off a couple of things here, because we've ticked off a Alex Garland screenplay. We've ticked off also a Domhnall Gleeson. Are we saying Domhnall?
Domhnall. I believe it's Domhnall.
I believe you're correct.
I think I looked it up once because I have this thing with like Irish names when obviously a lot of them are super hard to pronounce, or you look at them and they're never pronounced the way they're written. They're never phonetic.
Yeah.
So I was fascinated, and I believe I looked it up a long time ago.
Well, we managed to tick off the Domhnall Gleeson and Alex Garland thing in that movie. Are we going to do a Garland ranking later in the episode?
Yeah.
Because I've done one.
I haven't, but I can do it on the fly.
Okay. All right. But yeah, so we watched that, and I wonder what year that came out. Was that before?
I think that was
Sunshine?
2010.
Oh, okay. So it's after Sunshine. We're at 2010. Oh, we're missing Dread. He wrote Dread, didn't he?
I always forget that one.
Which also has Domhnall Gleeson in.
Oh, yeah.
He's not in it that much, but he's quite a memorable character in that.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Excellent film, yeah.
It maybe feels least Garland.
Yeah, agreed.
But not in a bad way. It's I might put that in my top 10 comic book movies. Maybe if I had
Yeah.
to, it would be in with the shout. It would be in the discussion, certainly. I think it's so much fun. It's utterly rewatchable.
And it's brutal.
And it's brutal, yeah.
And visually interesting.
Yeah. Great movie. So that's also about 2010, 2012, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then he gets given the reins to direct a movie with Ex Machina, sort of part funded by Film 4.
Isn't it also A24? I feel like they distributed it.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah.
That would make sense because he does have a relationship with a 24. Now, obviously, his last film was a 24, The Civil War.
Stop saying a 24.
Where he got given a big old budget. Oh, that's one thing I didn't look up, actually, was the budget for this movie. Oh,
I think it was 15 million.
Tell a lie, I did look up the budget, yeah. You're correct, it's 15 million.
Okay.
It grossed 37 million.
Oh.
Which I'm really surprised about. I remember this being talked about quite a lot. Maybe it was more during the Oscar season.
Maybe. I mean, I don't really remember this film's release, and I certainly didn't see it at the cinema. I watched it fairly shortly after it was released on DVD, I think.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I would have loved to see it on a big screen.
Yeah, me too. It's not something that was on my radar. I think it was, it came out and I was like, oh, let's just put this movie on, shall we? Oh, the writer of 28 Days Later. Okay, cool. Let's watch this. And I was like, oh.
Spoiler alert, Dan loves this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely my type of movie. So Ex Machina 2015, Annihilation 2018?
Yeah, I think so. I was quite late to the game with that one. I think it was you that insisted I watch it, actually. That's
unusual, isn't it?
It's
usually the other way around.
Yeah. But I loved it.
Good, because it's a really good movie.
Yeah, it had some really gnarly horror elements that I was not anticipating.
Yeah, some like really bizarre stuff as well, like Cronenbergian type things going on in that movie, and the final act is just something that I've never have expected, and I think about it all the time. Not outside of a music video, anyway. Yeah, it looked great. Yeah. Oh, Oscar Isaac as well. Oscar Isaac connection, also in that movie. That is based on book. Also, I think. I believe so. Yes. Yeah. Because I think it was a trilogy, and a lot of people had hoped that he would adapt the rest of the books, and he kind of squashed that theory quite quickly. Okay. And said that he wasn't interested in doing that. Oh, that's a shame. I'd love to see what came after that. Yeah, me too. I'm not going to spoil that movie because if you haven't seen it, I think you should check it out. If you're a fan of Alex Garland, it's definitely worth watching. And you've covered Annihilation before, haven't you? Nope. Oh, I thought you had. No. I thought you covered it on Gore Press. No, I'm desperate to. I'm sure we'll fit it into a season at some point. What kind of theme could we? I mean, without spoiling it, it's difficult. Yeah, let's not go down that road then. So, Annihilation 2018. What's he got after that? Is it Men? Is it straight to Men 2022? I think so. So we've got a 4-year gap between Annihilation and Men. Yeah, he's probably pumping out book. Men, I thought was really good. Men was a strange one. I know it upset a few people. I think I liked it. I really, really enjoy Jessie Buckley. I think she's fantastic, and I'm so thrilled that she's finally getting recognised. She's a very talented lady. But I think people's main criticism was that the allegory was just too obvious. Yeah. It was a bit sort of like a man mansplaining men to women. Kind of. I think that was like, that's not me. That's not my gripe, but that's what I saw a lot of. And I can kind of understand that, but it was still a really interesting movie, and I think it was very well-intentioned. Agreed. I think it was well-intentioned. I think that he, in general, Garland, likes to make movies about subjects that he's interested in. Yeah. And if that's what he's interested in, then fair enough. And I think, yes, it was quite on the nose. Let's not spoil anything. But things happen in that movie that you've never seen anywhere else. Yeah, so, that's for sure. Like, it might be on the nose, but it's not like anything else. Like, don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. Just enjoy it. And honestly, looking at his kind of back catalogue, he centres female characters quite often, and he writes women quite well, I think, and his female characters often have a lot of agency, and I don't know. I think maybe we're kind of shouting at the wrong guy. I totally agree. I think he from my perspective, I think he writes some really interesting female characters, and he does seem to be quite interested in toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
In a few of his movies, not least Ex Machina. I think maybe that's, couple this with Men might be a good double bill, perhaps.
God, you need a drink after.
Yeah, but also Oscar Isaac's character in it's difficult to talk about Annihilation without spoiling it. There's some things that happen in that movie that you think, oh, okay. Yeah, he does seem to be quite interested in that, and I guess it's one of those societal things that is just kind of in the zeitgeist that he kind of latches onto. And if he wants to write about that, then great. I think he's a really talented writer, and I think he's entitled to. Just because he's a geezer, just because he's a bloke, I don't think that necessarily means you can't write about that subject. I think everybody should be able to write about that subject.
Yeah, I have often wondered if that film would have been received any differently if it'd been written and directed by a woman.
Perhaps.
And I'm not sure.
Perhaps, but maybe it would have been. And it depends on who you ask, doesn't it? Because
But then people criticised Barbie for the same reasons. They were like, oh, it's just feminism 101. It's really obvious. Well, not to you, maybe. But what about the millions of little girls who went to see that and are now aware of what feminism is?
Yeah.
Maybe that message wasn't for you. Not everything is for you, Karen.
No, I was just thinking about Barbie as well, actually. Had Greta Gerwig directed Men, would it have been received differently? There would have been
more whimsical.
There would have been a lot more man babies crying. Going, no, we're not like that.
Yeah.
Not all men. Was that what they say? Not all men?
Yeah.
Yeah. So where are we in Garland's career then? We're up to Men. And
2022, yeah.
Do you know what we skipped?
Go on.
We skipped 2020 because that's when Devs came out.
Oh, fuck. Sorry.
That's all right. You can swear. This is your podcast.
No, I know. I was very loud all of a sudden. Of course. We watched that recently.
We did, yeah.
That was fantastic.
Oh, God. I can't believe it took me so long to watch that show.
I'd never heard of it until I signed up to Disney Plus for a month and you were like, oh, let's watch this. I was like, what the hell is this? How had that passed me by?
I don't know. Well, there's just so many shows. There's so much. But
lost in a sea of content.
Yeah. But the fact that it's Garland and it's
Nick Offerman.
And it's Nick Offerman and it's I don't think it's based on book, but it's sci-fi, it's Garland, it's a limited series, it is a complete story. Yep. I think maybe that's the reason that I didn't watch it, because I have somewhat of a resistance to TV shows just in case they kind of get cancelled and they're left on a cliffhanger and stuff like that. But a quick Google could have settled that for me, and I could have watched it ages ago. But I was really happy when we watched it. I thought it was excellent, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more when we do our G-Unit ranking at the end of the show.
Yes, I'm sure.
So 2020 Devs, 2022 Men, and that takes us up to this current year,
Civil War,
2024 Civil War, which was a fucking banger. I thought it was great. It's the best cinema experience that I've had in a while, I would say. Yeah, okay. I can't think of anything else that we've seen this year that I'm sure there is something that I'm forgetting, but I was gripped throughout that movie. June 2 was fucking amazing. Yeah, of course it was. Yes, as a cinematic experience, it's June 2, closely followed by Civil War, I would say.
Okay.
And then if I'd seen Roadhouse at the cinema.
Oh my God. Stop talking about that goddamn infernal Roadhouse remake, please.
It's DOP on Civil War was Rob Hardy, and that's someone who works with Garland quite a lot. He worked on Annihilation and Men, Devs, with Macquarie on Mission Impossible Fallout. But he didn't work on this movie. But one of the things about this film is it does look very nice.
Yeah.
Ex Machina.
Stop that.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier about it kind of still holding up to this day, and I totally agree with that.
I mean, in terms of everything, in terms of the way it looks, the themes that are present, even the technology, none of it is outdated considering it's been 10 years.
Yeah, in terms of the technology, it's funny because I remember when I watched this and he said, the Oscar Isaac character Nathan he's this kind of tech billionaire, maybe a Zuckerberg, a Muskie type person or whatever. I can't think of another one. Mr. Google. Yeah, and maybe it's based on an amalgamation of those types of tech bros. I don't know, but he mentions in the film that we've got access to all this information on Google or not Google, Blue Book or whatever. And that was kind of the first time that I'd seen big data being used as a sci-fi concept. I would say I can't think of anything prior to that. And it's funny now how we've gotten to like ChatGPT, which is essentially the same thing. It's scraping the internet for all of the information. And you ask it a question, it gives you an answer based on all of the Google searches and everything that's been put into search engines.
Which is why ChatGPT falls down more often than not, because so much of the information that's on the internet is crap.
It's garbage. It's memes and cat videos.
Yeah,
it's nonsense. But I guess that's the thing. Like, this movie's, it's not in terms of the technology aspects and stuff. You do have to suspend your disbelief, as you do with any kind of sci-fi concept.
Yeah.
And I think he talks about the scraping the internet, and I remember at the time thinking, oh, that's great, I've never seen this before. Oh, and maybe that is actually how we get to this AI situation. And now we've kind of got a version of that. I'm like, not quite, is it?
But it doesn't feel, I know you said sort of take it with a grain of salt or whatever, but it doesn't feel that far removed from the realms of what's possible or what might be possible. It still feels relatively grounded for a sci-fi. It
does feel really grounded. And I think particularly with the themes that we're dealing with, I think it's an incredibly simple concept, but with a few really high concept sci-fi ideas in there. And like when he's talking about, I built a brain, I'm like, have you though? You built a brain, have you, Oscar Isaac?
Can I have a new one?
Huh?
Could I have a new one?
Yeah, I think
I could use it.
Could both use one, to be honest.
What do you think like the principal theme of this film is?
I think it's about humanity as a whole, but also like nature versus nurture. What you create is a reflection of yourself, about raising children. It could be about families. And I guess the obvious one is like the dangers of technology or whatever. But I feel like with the best sci-fi, it uses a high concept to explore human nature and humanity. And I think this does that very well. And I think it's one of those where you could pick any kind of area and dig into it. What do you think it's about then?
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think ultimately it's sort of asking the question, what makes a human human? What distinguishes us from machines? And can machines ever truly mimic that? And ultimately, I think the answer is no, because the one thing they lack is empathy.
Well, I would say mimic, yes. I'd say machines would be able to.
Well, you know what I
mimic
mean, like replicate. That's just another word for the same thing. I don't know.
You don't feel like a machine could ever truly have consciousness?
Do you think a machine could really have empathy?
A machine? Well, I mean, define machine. That's where you get into a tricky situation, isn't it?
AI?
Yes.
How can it?
How can we?
I don't know. I'm not claiming to have any answers.
I don't know. It's tricky. Like, you can't really answer that question, because in order to answer that question, you kind of have to understand what consciousness is, and no one fucking does. So, like, it's a
lot of people claim to.
Do they?
Yeah.
Who claims to?
Idiots.
Yeah.
What I will say is that a lot of this stuff feels so far out of my wheelhouse. I'm not stupid. I'm not a stupid person, but when it comes to topics like this, I find it endlessly fascinating, but I feel like I know nothing. And I'm talking about more the technology side of things than anything else. But what I appreciate about Alex Garland's work is that he often covers the same sort of themes, but I feel like he sort of simplifies it enough for the dum-dums like me to make it a bit more easily consumable without being patronizing.
I think that was kind of what I was trying to get at earlier when I said it's simple in its setup. The kind of the type of movie it is. It's a very simple, we're just single location movie. Maybe that had more to do with budget than anything else, but it's there's a couple of high concept ideas that you've just got to kind of accept.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned it earlier, the brain thing, and he's like very quick, blink and you'll miss it. Seems like, look, built brain. And neural pathways build themselves and they move about. Anyway, next scene, you're like, well, no. Let's move back to that. But you have to kind of accept that. If you accept that, that's fine. And I think that this actually, for a single location, it's really well paced, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not action heavy. Almost all of it is dialogue.
Yeah, I think the action is in the dialogue. I feel a similar way to the movie Steve Jobs, where I think I'm sort of gripped on every single word that they're saying in that movie, and it's a slightly different flavour. It's the Sorkin type thing.
It's the dry dialogue. Sorkin flavour.
Yeah, I enjoy that flavour. But it's kind of that similar, like, it's all of the action and the momentum is in the dialogue and what's going on and what people are saying to each other. But I think because it's such a simple setup with a few complicated ideas that we kind of get out of the way quite quickly, I think it's masterfully done.
But none of it's like over explained, but it's phrased in such a way that people like me can wrap their heads around it just enough.
Yeah.
Like at no point did I ever feel confused. The first time I watched this, I think on the face of it, if you're not really paying attention, a lot of what they're talking about can sound really intimidating and confusing. But even on first watch, I was just like, yeah, no, I understand enough to absolutely get the most out of this experience.
I think it's genius in that respect, because it's just like, look, we built a robot, all right? Shut up. Now we're going to do the Turing test. You've heard of that, haven't you? You've all seen that Benedict Cumberbatch movie.
I haven't.
Have you not?
No.
Oh, it's all right. It's not brilliant. He doesn't build a robot in it.
Oh, sad times. So starting from the top, what I love most about this film is that it's really economical with its sort of character introductions and basically just the beginning. It gets straight into it. Like the first thing we see is Caleb in the office having won this competition. What's the competition? How did he enter? Doesn't matter. Doesn't fucking matter. He's won it. Off he goes. And I love that because lesser filmmakers would have spent ages being like, oh, and this is what he did, and then here's the process.
Just filling in a form.
Yeah. No, straight to it.
Yeah. And I really like in that opening scene as well, it's from the perspective of his computer as well. So it's giving you information even in that opening scene. You see other people's bodies, but you don't see their faces. You just see Domhnall Gleeson's face. And it's doing that thing that you remember on when you used to set up the Nintendo Wii, and it would do like the pointy thing.
Like the face mapping thing.
That's it.
Yeah, do you know what? Obviously, I've seen this film a bunch. I would say maybe 6 times now. And obviously, I see that every time, but it wasn't until this time that I realised, oh, okay, this is the filmmaker telling us that he's being watched from minute one.
It's the perspective, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I ever really grasped that before this watch.
Yeah, there was a couple of things that I picked up for the first time on this watch, actually. And I guess it's the beauty of watching it for the podcast. You're looking out for other things, maybe watching it a bit more closely and thinking about it a bit more. Yeah, there's that scene. He wins the competition. He gets in helicopter and flies across acres of land.
Apparently Nathan owns all of Norway.
Oh, was it Norway?
Yeah, so right. the what are we even calling it? House? Compound? Compound. It's not really a house, is it? It's a hotel in Norway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, can we say that?
One or both of us might have to get higher paying jobs from the looks of it. But
We'll save up. You heard it, patrons.
Okay. Are there robots there?
Well, we can bring a robot.
No. If there are robots there, I don't want to go. Is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh, I do want to go if there are
okay.
robots, especially if there are robots.
Well, it might be a solo trip then.
If it's it depends what robot it is actually. If it's Johnny 5, would you go if it's Johnny 5?
From Short Circuit 1 or 2?
Oh, 2. I want Punk Johnny 5.
Oh, I was going to say when he's all shiny.
No,
shiny and new.
I want Punk and dinged up Johnny 5.
Oh no, that makes me sad.
Oh.
What about if the robot looked like Alicia Vikander?
Would I go?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Of course you would.
Yeah. So it's a hotel, yes. I would love to stay there. It looks lovely. It looks amazing.
It does.
I wonder how much of it was set and how much of it was shooting inside the hotel.
Honestly, have no idea. I know the exterior, I believe, is the hotel, and definitely like the lobby with all the exposed stone is the hotel.
Oh, is it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I know you do. It looks so cold and uninviting.
Oh, yeah, beautiful. Perfect.
I got big Succession vibes when he arrived at the compound.
Yeah, okay. Is the hotel subterranean then, is it?
I don't know. Well, I imagine so. Some of it, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, so Caleb arrives at this compound.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I noticed actually is that when he walks to the compound and the computer says, Caleb, Mr. Caleb, come and we'll do your photo. And they do the photo, and he gets a key card, and then he walks into the gaff.
The gaff.
And
The photo on his key card is still better than the one I had on my gym membership card, by the way. Still more flattering.
Yeah, and then the perspective is from outside, and you see the door close.
Oh, yeah.
On Domhnall Gleeson. And I suppose it's one of those things that you get more out of on a rewatch. And you just think, oh, yeah, that's the last time you're leaving this place, isn't it? That's the last time
he goes out again. There's bits where they're outside.
Okay, true. Yeah, okay.
That's one of the things I love about this film, actually. And a lot of Alex Garland's films, particularly things like, Men, Annihilation, even Devs to some degree, he seems equally fascinated by the natural world as he is with tech.
Yeah.
And the two are often sort of interspersed. I really, really appreciate that.
I think when he was just going back to helicopter and he just kind of flew over the snow, and I mentioned to you about the Thing.
Oh, I've got points to make about the Thing later on.
Because the Thing's not in this lineup, is it?
It's not, no. I'm saving it.
What are you saving it for?
I don't know. Snow.
I think
Paranoia.
Paranoia is a good one, yeah. But are we parking that then? Are we talking about that later? Or okay.
So how quickly is it before Nathan sort of gives Caleb the choice? Is that pretty soon after he arrives?
What choice?
Well, his choices are he can be part of this really exciting experiment, or they can get drunk and play pool and have a chat. Yeah. I would have picked that.
Would you? What, with him? With Nathan?
With Oscar Isaac, yes. With Nathan, maybe not.
I was going to say I would have jumped off of one of those large rocks, those shanky rocks into the ravine.
Apparently, Oscar Isaac, in part, modelled the character after Stanley Kubrick.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And there are many stories out there that suggest he was a bit of an insufferable con at times.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of stories, like you say. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've not really spoken about Nathan, really, have we?
Because we will.
Obviously, Gleeson arrives and he's a bit intimidated, and he's like, meet you, the super boss of the world, or whatever.
Initially, he seems kind of cool.
Who, Nathan?
Yeah.
I think
a bit overconfident and egotistical in the way that you would expect somebody like that to be, but also quite inviting.
It's interesting because I had that exact same experience the first time I watched it. Straight away you're like, okay. But it doesn't take long for you to realise that it's all kind of an act.
Do you think it is an act? Or do you think he's just all over the place? I think he's a bit unhinged.
I think I just think he's deeply, deeply manipulative person.
Okay.
And I think I have a certain amount of empathy for this character.
Yeah, that's where you and I differ.
I dislike him. I think he's an absolute tool. But I think it's interesting the way that Oscar Isaac plays him. I feel like I can see the insecurity and the vulnerability, and I think that a lot of decisions he makes in manipulating people and trying to control the machines that he's building, it's all because he's such a scared little boy.
I didn't get that at all. That's fascinating.
That's what I thought.
Okay, interesting. That's really interesting, because to me he seems like irredeemable. He seems unpredictable and an alcoholic and deeply troubled. I don't get insecure. I get sort of just singularly focused. And I mean, this film its alternative title could be Fucked Around and Found Out, because he gets what's coming to him.
Yeah. I think he's deeply insecure. I think there's a lot of clues that make me feel that way. There's the way that he wants Caleb to see him, or so he says, see him as a friend rather than a boss. I don't really know what's true and what's not.
But is that not just a means to an end for him?
In terms of
getting Caleb on side?
Yeah, but that's the manipulation. It's getting him on side because he wants him to be part of his experiment. I think part of him as well wants connection. I think part of him wants, I don't want to say family, but I don't know. He's obviously isolated in this place, and I feel like that's a reflection of how he feels in real life or in society. I feel like he feels he's much smarter than everyone else.
Yeah.
He kind of feels like he's much better than everyone else, and in that probably there's some loneliness, and maybe he's building these things that might rival or surpass his intellect in some way. And I just think all
and
of
then
his
having
actions,
sex with them.
and obviously there's that too.
He's
yeah.
not a good guy.
No, he's not. He's fucking awful. But it's interesting the way that he plays him. I do, maybe this time more than any other time I've watched it, got to the end and just like, you know.
See,
they talk about nature versus nurture, and I feel like
Yeah.
he's got a past and a history that has got him to this point, and I can see it.
but
I don't like him. He is. I don't think he's redeemable. You said he's irredeemable.
I think he's
and
irredeemable.
I agree
yeah.
with you.
But also, in terms of real world people, like I firmly believe that all billionaires have an aspect of sociopathy to their personalities, because I don't think it's possible to become a billionaire without just stepping on people left and right. I don't think it's possible. There's no such thing as an altruistic billionaire.
Yeah, you're most probably right. And also, like, what do you fucking need $1 billion for?
Nobody needs that money.
Like,
Nobody.
It's easy for us to say, but I guess that we would never have $1 billion because we're just not that way. It's not the way we think. But I'd like to think that if I was, then I just would give a lot of it away, because you just don't fucking need $1 billion.
It's more money
need
than
$1 billion
the average person could spend in a
nice
lifetime.
house. You have a nice pool. You have a nice subterranean gaff.
Yeah, I would make sure I was comfortable.
You build some sex robots.
No, you lost me.
No, but you don't. You need, you get your needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, get that sorted, and then you're good.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you. I think I can't think of a single billionaire that I think would like to go for a beer with.
No. Psychopaths, a lot of them.
Yeah.
So to me, like, regardless of his circumstances, that makes him a very, very difficult character to empathise with.
No,
and he's continuing to step on people. He doesn't give a fuck about Caleb, not really.
I agree. I don't think he does care about him. Do you think he's obviously the reason that he tells Caleb for him inviting him there is because of the Turing test?
Yeah.
Do you think that that's true? Do you think that that's 100% he does want him to carry out this Turing test? Do you think he's... Because you could argue, like, what the test is. Like, you could read it a couple of different ways. Is it are we testing AI, or is AI testing us? Or
I think the film makes that quite clear towards the end, because obviously throughout the film, every time Caleb is with Ava, there's a title card that comes up saying Ava session 1, and then Ava session 7 is right at the end, and he's already been locked away. So I think that the film makes it quite explicitly clear that she's the one who was testing them the whole time.
Do you think that Nathan is bringing him there to test the AI?
In part.
What?
I think it's a combination.
What? A combination of what? What else?
I think Ava and Caleb are testing one another.
Agreed.
And I think Nathan knows that, and that was his intention.
Okay. So you think that... I think Nathan probably realises that he's probably like, look, we've passed the Turing test here. Like, this is conscious. I know this is a conscious being, right? Because he spent so much time with these different iterations of AI. So he must know already. And he sets up the test in such a way that he's kind of fucking with Caleb quite a lot as well. He's like making him think that maybe he's programmed Ava to flirt with Caleb, but he's not really giving him answers. He's sort of skirting around it and being quite manipulative in a way that he's answering his questions.
I think the way the hierarchy is displayed is quite interesting as well, because obviously we're under no illusions that Nathan is very much at the top of the totem pole. And then you've got Caleb, who's super nerdy, insecure, awkward, quite anxious. And then that's kind of reflected in the costume choices. He turns up in a suit and Nathan's just in his joggers, having completed a workout. So there's that immediate sort of balance that's completely off, because that's quite a common thing. That's kind of a power move for CEOs to like turn up in trainers, to sort of show, I'm not going to bend to your uniform. So the fact that he shows up in a suit, and then shortly after we kind of see him in pajamas that are way too short for him and make him look super childlike, and then he sort of subjugates Ava. The pecking order is very much established quite early on, or so they think. And I think that's really evident in the fact that Caleb sort of infantilizes Ava, kind of talks to her as if she is a child, especially to begin with. Like in session 1, he's almost condescending.
He's
like
mansplaining, like immediately. Yeah.
And there's a smirk on his face, which I think I'm inclined to think is more sort of just kind of glee at the opportunities he's been granted, but could also be read as a bit patronising, a bit condescending.
Yeah, I got that from this viewing as well. I think it's funny because he's essentially going there to test this AI, so he thinks.
Yeah.
So you could argue that he has no idea how intelligent this thing is. So first conversation, he might over-explain something, but you could also read it like maybe he is a bit like that as well. Maybe he's a bit mansplaining.
I do wonder if the AI was male, if the interaction would have gone differently, and I suspect it probably would.
Perhaps.
And obviously I think it makes a difference that it's not only a female AI, but a classically beautiful female.
Yeah. And obviously you've got all of the aspects of kind of the Nathan being a very toxic person. I can imagine him being in a very toxic relationship and being very controlling, and he obviously carries that forward to the machines that he's building. So we mentioned toxic masculinity and how Garland likes to explore that in his works. I think it's very present here. Maybe not quite as much as men, but maybe not far off. It's pretty close, I would say.
I'm quite grateful that this film doesn't feature a naked Rory Kinnear.
Agreed. Maybe we could have made a Rory Kinnear robot. It's funny.
No.
It's funny how they're just female robots, isn't it?
Yeah, weird that.
Yeah.
It's almost as if that plays a part in his toxicity.
Yeah, it's almost like he wants to build himself a robot that doesn't talk, but has all of the areas that he's interested in.
Well, that, and I think because he views himself, regardless of what he says, obviously they acknowledge the dangers of AI with the whole kind of Oppenheimer mention, which we'll get to. But I think Nathan is so sort of up himself that he views himself as superior to the AI. And so, of course, a man like that would make them female because, in his mind, females are inferior.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Also, he wants to fuck them.
Yeah. And I'm not sure that he's as much of a genius as he thinks he is. I mean,
he clearly is in some regard.
He's obviously a very clever man.
Yeah.
Like he does a big coding or whatever he does. But I don't know, for all these fucking billionaires, you were at the right place at the right time. Yes, you've got a skill. Yes, you probably worked incredibly hard. But you were lucky to have those aspects of your personality to begin with that make you work hard and make you have the desire to acquire said skill.
Yeah, and
that's all luck. That's all genes and nurture. And
almost certainly you borrowed work or were influenced by people who were under your employ at some point as well.
Yeah, and who did you know? What favours did people do for you? Like, it's not about, like, people always... fucking drives me mad. Like, put these people on a totem because they're so rich and they think, oh, they're super genius. Like, no, they're not. They're quite clever. Don't get me wrong, but they're not much cleverer than you, mate.
Yeah,
just right place, right time, and probably worked quite hard.
Yeah,
and they knew the right people, and it's probably the case with Nathan as well. Probably not quite as clever as he thinks he is.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think when they're having that discussion about Oppenheimer, the reason I went down that avenue is because you mentioned the Oppenheimer line, and I really like that because Caleb brings that up, and he's saying that line, and then Nathan finishes off his sentence, says, "Oh yeah, the maker of the atom bomb or whatever."
Yeah,
and that screams to me of insecurity, that he almost thought that Caleb thought that he didn't know what that was, and maybe he didn't know what that was, that quote.
But also it's evidence of his overconfidence, because Oppenheimer reportedly did say that, but it's not his quote.
Okay.
It's from a book called the Bhagavad Gita. So he's so sure of himself. He's very loud and very wrong. Not a great combination to be.
But I really like the way that when Caleb's explaining that line, and then he finishes off his sentence. It's like that's something you do when you're like 9. Like, yeah, I know that. I know that. But you, it's not that you know that. It's that you can piece together the flow of that sentence, and you kind of know where it's going to end. That's what I got from that. And there's that other line where Caleb says, "Oh, what is it? It's the work of gods or something, creating."
Oh yeah, and he twists the quote.
Yeah, he said, "Yeah, hey, Caleb, you said I was a god."
Yeah.
Remember that? You said I was a god. awful egotistical.
I imagine probably not far from the truth. I feel like I'm guessing with devs as well and some of the other stuff that Alex Garland has touched on, that he probably has some experience amongst people like that, like the Silicon Valleys of the world.
I think he's very interested in technology.
Yeah.
So he probably does have quite a good knowledge base of people that create that sort of thing.
I could see that being pretty on the money in terms of characterization, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, coming back to the Oppenheimer thing, it was so weird because I hadn't seen this film in years. And just before that, I literally wrote in my notes, a little like Oppenheimer, and that he describes the AI model as inevitable. And then he fucking said the thing. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm not as smart as I think I am.
It's that funny. It's that thing, isn't it? It's that hubris of like...
Oh, that the whole film is very much about the hubris of man.
Yeah. But it's that scapegoat thing as well. Like, oh, I had to build it because someone would have built it anyway. And I hate that. It's like, no, but you didn't.
It feels really disingenuous. Like, just admit you did it because you want to be the first to do it. Yes, it is inevitable. Somebody's going to do it, but you wanted to beat people.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, like, who can say whether it's inevitable or not? Like, probably. But if you don't build it, maybe the next person goes, I won't build it either.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you don't have to do it.
But
you just want all of the money and the fame and the success and
the power.
The power. Recognition.
All boils down to power, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the performances then? Because we've not really touched much on Ava.
I like, more than anything, I like the way that Alicia Vikander moves. I think as a physical performance, I think it's pretty fucking great.
It could have been really... like jarring. It feels more real.
It does feel real. It feels like but you can see it's not human.
Yeah.
Like but it's very subtle. It's kind of like...
It's not like jagged movements like you would expect, you know, like a cartoon robot.
Like RoboCop.
Yeah.
Like shoulders first, head after. Yeah, it's... have you ever watched the videos of the Boston Dynamics robots? Yeah,
they creep me out. I hate them.
There's a new one, the Atlas robot. The new Atlas, I think launched about a month ago. But yeah, even the older ones, like you've seen them running around and they're quite fluid, like they're super advanced, but still have that kind of certainty of movement. It's not like a human is kind of a bit, you know, they walk and they're a bit all over the place.
I don't like their knees go the wrong way. Yeah. Like flamingos. I hate them.
Have you seen the new one?
I don't know.
God, you're not going to enjoy that new one.
No, probably not.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed her performance. And I thought, was she like trained as a dancer or
I
something?
have no idea, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I think somewhere in the back of my mind that's telling me that's correct. So I think, yeah, let's go with that. But it would make sense to cast her that could express herself in that way. And I wonder what kind of things she watched for inspiration. I was thinking about the Boston Dynamics video, and I'll come back to that because it was very much that. I walk in and it looks kind of natural, but something not quite.
Yeah,
right.
Bit uncanny.
Yeah. I thought her performance was pretty decent. I thought she was really good in that role.
Yeah.
I've not seen it. I'm trying to think what else I've seen her in. It's only really Tomb Raider.
So I'm going to be a little bit controversial. I've seen her in a bunch of stuff. She's done shitloads of like period dramas and stuff like that.
The Green Knight.
Yeah, The Green Knight, of course. So one thing I don't like about Alicia Vikander, I think she's a tremendous actress. I really do. She's terrible at accents, though. A lot of people might disagree with me, and I don't know what it is. I think I've just got a very sensitive ear when it comes to accents, and I can hear her native voice coming through.
Where's she from? Is she English?
No, she's I want to say Danish.
Oh, okay.
That might be completely wrong. Somewhere around there. But I do think she's a really good actor, and I think she's never been better than in this film.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I do enjoy her in The Green Knight, but she's not in it that much in a movie that I fucking adore.
Yeah.
But I struggled to remember her in much else. I thought she was a really great Lara Croft, but that role is not that demanding. Physically very demanding, but outside of riding a bicycle very quickly, it's what are we doing here? Really, we're shouting at Walton Goggins for a bit. and jumping off an aeroplane.
Yeah, she's got to do a lot of jumping and stuff.
I like that movie.
I know you do.
I think it's good. It's a good. It's the second best computer game movie after Need for Speed.
It's fucking seriously.
Wow.
It's the best Tomb Raider movie.
It's
by a mile.
By a country mile. Yeah. The first Tomb Raider movie ends in a foot race. That's the climax of that movie. Let's do a foot race up a triangle. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think she's very good in this.
Yeah.
But more physically than anything else, I would say. She's very good at the movements.
Yeah.
And one thing I was looking at, keeping my eye on in this film, because I haven't seen it for a few years either. It's probably about 5 years since I last saw it, I would say. Looked incredible when it came out, and I was very much looking forward to see, does this hold up? And I was really looking at the detail this time, and it's fucking flawless. It's incredible how this looks, and I think they were very clever in the way that they shot this and the way that they made it. I think that kind of honeycomb mesh situation that we've got going on the torso of the body, I think that's a really good way of because it's a transparent body, but it kind of obscures what's behind it, and I think that really throws you off scent a little bit, and it kind of disguises the transparency a little bit. It's quite an opaque look, but I think the honeycomb mesh, definitely, if it was just pure transparent, maybe you could see through it. You see through the effects a bit more. But I think the way that it was designed was really creative and really makes it hold up. I know we were talking about performances.
For a 15 million movie.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I know. I want to say that it won an Oscar for effects.
It did. And this might make you feel a little bit conflicted because it beat Fury Road for the visual effects Oscar. But can you get over it because you also love this film?
Oh, I mean, yeah.
I wouldn't have liked to have been the person to make that deciding vote.
Is there an Oscar for stunts?
I'm not sure, actually. There should be.
There should be, shouldn't there?
There should be, yeah.
I feel like let's give Ex Machina best VFX, but give everything else to Fury Road.
Okay.
That's fine. Fury Road can manage. They'll be fine with that. Yeah. I think it's deserving. I think it's deserving in its creativity. Yeah. And it's the economical, how they managed to get it looking so fucking great on such a relatively small budget film.
Yeah.
I think it probably deserves it. I think a lot of people probably worked quite hard and came up with some ingenious ideas to make this look fantastic.
Yeah.
And still hold up 10 years later.
Look, I know you've already used the word flawless, but absolutely. Like, obviously, effects haven't come on a huge amount in the last 9-10 years, but it looks like it could have come out yesterday.
Yeah. There's stuff that comes out now that doesn't look as good as this.
With bigger budgets.
Yeah. Yeah, we're looking at you, Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outrageous.
And you know that she's just milling about on set with a fucking green morph suit on. But it's done so well. It's done brilliantly.
It looks good enough that it sells it.
I think the best performance in this movie is the VFX. The VFX team.
Which is saying something. How do you feel about Domhnall Gleeson? We haven't really talked a great deal about his performance either.
I think he's great in this.
Yeah.
I think this is the best I've ever seen him. I think obviously he's in that time traveling cupboard movie, which is that a Curtis? Is that a Richard Curtis?
Oh, probably.
Yeah, it's not very good.
About Time.
Yeah,
it's not very good. No.
He was in that Charlie Brooker Black Mirror episode
where he played sort of an AI.
He did, yeah. That's when we lose a loved one and we bring them back as a robot.
That was a good episode.
Brilliant. We should. You know what? Black Mirror is due a rewatch. I think. Yeah. I think I've only seen all of them once, so I'd quite like to go and revisit them. Apart from Bandersnatch, because Domhnall Gleeson. What else is he? What else?
He was in that weird Frank Sidebottom movie.
What was that called?
Just called Frank.
Frank, right. Was that a what's his name? Alicia Vikander's other half.
Fassbender.
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I haven't seen that.
He was also in Anna Karenina with Alicia Vikander, I think a couple of years before this came out, 2-3 years before. Yeah, he's done a bunch of stuff. He was in Calvary.
Was he?
With his dad.
With his papa?
Yeah.
Papa Gleeson. Because the first time I ever saw Brendan Gleeson was in 28 Days Later. The first time I noticed him in anything anyway. I said to you when we watched, because we watched that the other night as well, and when he popped up, I said, yeah, this is whenever I saw him after this movie, it was always, oh, it's the dad from 28 Days Later. And then he became Brendan Gleeson around about the time of The Guard, I think, for me.
Oh, it was In Bruges for me.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It would have been In Bruges had I seen it at the time, but I think
Right.
I saw that quite a long time after it came out. So Domhnall Gleeson, yeah, I don't know what else I've seen him in. I haven't seen him in much.
He's put out some really good performances.
Okay.
I haven't seen him in a great deal for a long time.
He was in a Star Wars, wasn't he, recently?
He was General somebody with
I want to say
Oscar
Nux.
Isaac.
Yeah, Nux or Cux or something.
No, maybe. But yeah,
Cux, General Cux.
there are so many connections. They've all worked with each other.
Yeah, Oscar Isaac obviously is I want to say Poe Dameron.
Yes.
In those movies.
Yeah.
And arguably the best character out of the new characters.
Yeah, maybe.
I would say he's the most fun.
Yeah.
In those pretty good. The first one was okay. It's fun. I enjoyed The Force Awakens, and then the other two I think are pretty shit.
I like Oscar Isaac. He's a very good actor.
But I think Oscar Isaac is very good. He's very good in Annihilation. He's very good in this movie. This might be my favourite Oscar Isaac performance, I want to say, particularly because of some of the things we've already talked about with him being such an irredeemable and despicable character.
Yeah.
But yet somehow I feel sorry for him.
Disagree.
Particularly at the end, which we'll get to.
Okay. Inside Llewyn Davis. I know you don't like that, but I love it.
Inside Llewyn Davis.
Llewyn.
Yeah. I don't care for that.
I know you don't.
I thought that was a bit blur. Was that a? It's those. I don't. Is it Coens?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of Coen Brothers movies in general. I would say they're a bit kind of left field for me sometimes with the kind of humour and stuff. It's not quite my cup of tea. Usually, sometimes.
We've already mentioned it this episode, but June as well.
June, yeah, he's very good. He's got a lovely beard in June, isn't he?
He does.
Lovely grey beard.
Bit of a silver fox these days.
Yeah, but he's got that thing, hasn't he? He's got that.
Star quality.
Yeah, that presence,
Mm-hmm.
that commanding presence where he can do the big June role and he's not in it that much, but you're like, he's a good actor. And
it's been announced that he's going to be in a vampire movie with Kristen Stewart, directed by Panos Cosmatos. Like, that, it felt like, you know how, taking it back to AI, you know how advertising is quite insidious these days, and what you're seeing in terms of advertising isn't necessarily what everybody else is seeing. It feels like that headline was geared towards just me. Yeah. That's how up my street that is.
It feels like we skipped forward 10 years and have just spoken into an AI. Make me a vampire movie with Kristen Stewart and Oscar Isaac.
Make the perfect film for Sarah.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. But interesting, that's kind of where AI is more going than kind of the simulated consciousness route.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll. Are we going to talk about technology stuff again? Maybe let's not go down that rabbit hole. It's
not immediately going to kill us and take over, but it is going to steal our jobs.
I think it's going to steal some jobs and it's going to create a lot more.
I am, as somebody who works as an artist of a fashion, I'm pretty scared. I'll be honest.
Yep, I can understand that.
AI can fuck off as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's definitely a potential threat to creativity.
Yeah.
But also it is a tool for creativity.
Yeah.
It depends. I think it's, look, for me, I'm not in that field, so far be it from me to say, but I think it's like with many things, it's a tool that either you get on board with or you fall behind.
I think the issue is that because it is, as you've already said this episode, it gets its information from scraping the internet.
Yeah.
The artwork that it's putting out is an amalgamation of existing artwork. So in some regards, you could argue it is plagiarism, which is a huge issue in that field. Anyway.
I don't disagree with you, but I would counter that point by saying, isn't that just what a human does? I'm not saying that's correct, but I can.
To some degree. I mean, look, the phrase "there's not an original idea under the sun." There's a book that I own, which is really I fall back on it whenever I'm having sort of creative block, and it's literally called "Steal Like an Artist." So yes, to some degree, but there's still the human element, and this is removing that entirely. So it scares me. But anyway, let's get back to the film.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's talk about the ending.
So the ending. So we've done a big old Turing test.
There's been some dancing.
Oh, well, we skipped right past the dancing, didn't we? I mentioned to you, I feel like when we were watching the film, I felt like this was the movie that started odd man dances in film trope.
But I can't name another.
No.
You said that.
Yeah, but I can only think of one other at the moment, and that's Spiderhead with Chris Hemsworth, and he does a funny little dance in that. But I feel like when we watched that, there were a few others that we watched around about the same time. But I think, and I got sick of seeing it, and I got sick of it. But I think it works here because he's such an egotistical man. I don't know where I was going with that, really. He does the little dance with other long time
Sonoya
Mizuno.
Yeah. That's the one. Yeah, she was the main character in Devs.
Devs. She was also in Men.
Was she?
Apparently so.
Oh, I know she had a small part in Civil War.
And also Annihilation.
Oh,
so long time Garland collaborator.
Oh, brilliant. She was a dancer originally, and model.
Well, she was in this movie a lot more than I remember it being as well.
And doesn't say a word.
No. No.
So, we get to the end. At what point are Ava's true intentions revealed?
Oh, I think not until she leaves the room, I guess. Because she's shutting the power down.
Everybody's lying to everybody. Like, Caleb is keeping secrets from Nathan on day 2.
Yeah.
Or so he thinks.
He wants to get his end away with a robot.
Yeah. Don't they all in this movie?
Nathan is just manipulating everybody.
Yeah.
And Ava is a reflection of Nathan.
Yeah.
In some regard. You can't blame her for it because she's a prisoner there. But she's learned that behaviour from Nathan.
Yeah.
The manipulation element.
So that's the nurture element.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But yeah, so she's shutting the power down, which gives her an opportunity to talk to Domhnall Gleeson off the record.
Yeah, making the whole room red. Because Anne from Cube would have hated it.
Red room. Yeah, links to last episode, yeah.
Well, in fact, the RGB colour model, obviously, like representative of computers, is really prevalent in this film, and it was also super prevalent in Cube. Everything's either green, blue or red.
I wonder if that will continue into the next episode.
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, I don't know an awful lot about that movie. We'll get to that.
So, obviously, she gets out of the room. She has that kind of interaction with Kyoko, who we've just mentioned. But Kyoko's already holding a knife. So, is this something they'd sort of independently been planning? Or do you think they had sort of plotted it together for quite a while?
I don't know. You could read it either way, really. They seem to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
Obviously, Kyoko can't literally talk, can't literally speak. But if they've built this AI off the back of the internet, then they must be connected somehow. And maybe it's more akin to a kind of a telepathy type thing in a way that we can understand it.
That would make pretty perfect sense, actually.
Yeah. So I don't know whether I planned it or not. I don't know. But yeah, maybe.
No, I like that take.
Yeah. But you're right. She is already holding a knife.
And then obviously Ava's sort of caressing the masks on the wall. And until I read up about the film initially, I was just like, that is a very steep curve. If you look at the first mask all the way to Ava, like nobody would have wanted to look at 2 and 3. Yeah. Horrendous. But I did do a bit of reading, and apparently the more sort of naive looking masks, the more remedial ones, were inspired again by the Greek tragedies. Like they were masks that would have been used in the plays.
Right. Okay.
So tying it back to that.
Yeah.
Which also comes straight back to the whole Prometheus concept, because they do talk about some of the ideas being Promethean, don't they?
What year did that come out? Was that 2012?
No, not Prometheus, not the film. No, not Prometheus, the film.
What? What are you talking about then?
Well, Promethean was already a word. That's
Is it?
Yeah, Promethean, Prometheus. That's again Greek. Like Frankenstein. I can't remember if it's the alternative title or the subtitle was The Modern Prometheus. And this movie has a lot of Frankenstein elements to it, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? I didn't think of that, actually.
The creation turning on the creator in the end. I think that's a really cool sort of parallel. But yeah, Oppenheimer as well wrote a book called American Prometheus.
Okay.
So like the I feel like Charlie from It's Always Sunny in that episode was trying to explain and going increasingly strange.
Yeah.
But the lines through everything, tying it together, are genius. It was so well thought out. And I mean, I think that's obvious even from one viewing, but kind of digging into it a little bit has given me even more of an admiration for the project as a whole. And Garland as a writer.
Yeah.
It's so well done.
I think there's no denying how much of a talented writer he is.
Yeah.
I think I've seen this a few times now, and I do get more from it every time I've seen it. I would like to revisit Devs at some point again. That's a bit more of a feat because it's like 8 hours of a thing.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. And it was so far down my street, and I loved it. But I feel like there's probably a lot more layers and little maybe nuggets of things, like the references to that Ridley Scott movie. Maybe there's some references in that to the original Alien movie.
I mean, Fassbender was in that, so
he was
another connection.
David, connections, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've got a few little tidbits.
Got some trivia
before we get straight to the end.
Oh yeah.
Which might make you appreciate it even more as well. So when Caleb's coding in sort of the first act, he types an algorithm apparently that finds prime numbers, but it also finds ISBN numbers,
right?
Which are obviously the identification numbers for books.
Okay.
And the one that he types, or the one that it sort of gives him, is for a book called Embodiment and the Inner Life, Cognition and Consciousness in the Space of Possible Minds.
Isn't that the book that inspired this screenplay?
Oh, probably, yeah.
I think I read somewhere that is the name of the book that gave Garland the idea for this movie.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But nothing is random in this film, and I love it.
You mentioned prime numbers there. That's another link to the last episode.
Oh, yeah.
They did the prime numbers thing because Anne was like, yeah, give me some gummy drops and I'll fucking tell you the prime numbers.
Yeah. This would make a decent double bill, actually.
It would. It's a good thing we're doing it in the same season.
It is.
It's not like my season where it's all over the place.
I should pretend that I planned this all along.
Don't
Edit
worry.
this out, yeah?
The next one's going to be completely different.
Yeah, it was completely out of left field. But yeah, the names are biblical names. So Ava is basically another form of Eve, which is literally the first woman in the Bible, not in real life. Obviously in that fiction book, the Bible.
Yeah.
Nathan was a prophet, and Caleb was a spy sent to evaluate the promised land by Moses, I believe.
The Turing test.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I kind of love that as well. And another little one, which I also think is super neat. At one point, I think it's when Caleb's in the bathroom looking in the mirror, and you can hear Enola Gay playing by Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. Obviously, Enola Gay is the name of the aeroplane that dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. Yeah. So literally, like, everything has thought behind it. It's nuts.
It's brilliantly written. It's brilliantly shot. I do think this is maybe his masterpiece. Like, I think...
Yeah.
He hasn't made a movie that I don't like, especially the ones that he's directed.
He's not made a bad film.
Really, I love most of them, and I really like all of them.
Yeah.
Don't love all of the movies that he's written. Mostly, there's one that's hanging out the bottom.
Are you referring to the one that we watched the other night?
Maybe. Well, maybe. We're going to rank them, aren't we? But yeah, I think he's a really talented writer. I think we covered Civil War on our Patreon.
We did.
Feed. And we spoke a little bit about the news where he announced that he's not directing movies anymore, which apparently is not quite accurate. He did say...
hiatus.
I'm having a break.
Hiatus rather than retirement.
Indefinite break.
Yeah.
Which kind of means I may do something else or I may not. Like,
he might have a week off and get bored.
Yeah, but like he's fucking pumping out novels, so like he'll never be bored. He's obviously a really creative person that's always working. But maybe he won't direct anymore. But even if he's writing, I'm kind of happy with that. I would love to see him carry on directing. But if it means that we get more Garland content that he's written, maybe I take that.
Yeah,
because maybe there are other people, like Danny Boyle is the obvious one, obviously. If we're going to be doing another 28 Days Later movie, is he going to write that? I hope so.
I believe so.
Well, thank you very much. I'm totally on board with that.
And I heard recently that it's going to be a trilogy as well.
28 years later.
Yeah.
29 years later. 30 years later.
Sure.
What was the casting as? It's
Jodie
Comer and
Ralph Fiennes, Aaron Taylor-Johnson.
That feels random to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I suppose Jeremy Renner was in the sequel, so.
Oh, yeah.
That was weird. They're not a good movie. That's a good movie.
It's not bad.
It's pretty decent.
It's not bad. But yeah, so like, what are your final thoughts on Ex Machina? Because we're right at the end now. So obviously the robots
take over.
Rowenge.
Yeah.
And shank Oscar Isaac, but not before he knocks Ava's arm off.
Yeah.
She's got an arm off.
Yeah. Yeah, Kyoko stabs him in the back.
Yeah.
Which is, like we talked about the way it's shot, I really enjoyed the way that Oscar Isaac moves back away from Ava and he walks into the knife rather than Kyoko stabbing him. He walks into it.
Yes, he does, but I also think, I wouldn't say she's like an inactive participant in the stabbing.
Had he not moved, she definitely would have shanked him.
Yeah. But I love how it happens as well. The way they both kind of stick the knife in is so slow and methodical.
Yeah.
And to me, that is sort of the big difference because emotion is removed from it. I'm not saying they're not conscious because I don't know enough to have that opinion.
It's a means to an end for them, I think.
But it is like when people in real life, when you read stories of stabbings, it's always like a frenzied attack. Mm. Nobody ever sort of stabs people very slowly and methodically, do they? Mm. That's psychotic. Well, stabbing anyone is arguably psychotic, but...
Definitely, but yeah.
But I don't know, I quite liked the... just the calm of it.
Yeah, I would say this is maybe the most artfully shot stabbing scene I've ever seen. Because you mentioned about them doing it quite methodically. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy Oscar Isaac's response as well. He, as I said, kind of backs up into the first knife. Then Ava inserts a knife into his chest. Mm-hmm. And he's like, whoa. Wow, like
Et tu, Brute.
Almost like I'm the first human to be killed by a robot. And he's almost like proud, like I don't know, the expressions that I got on his face were like a proud parent, kind of.
Very mixed emotions, and he sort of portrayed the complexity of that pretty well.
Yeah. And ultimately he is a downfall of his own. His downfall was his own creation. It's the thing that he created. Hubris. Yeah, absolutely.
It's always hubris.
Yeah.
I do feel bad for Caleb. Caleb's the only person I do feel bad for because he's the closest thing to a true innocent in this movie.
Yeah, I guess so. But, can you be innocent if you're just a bit... You got to be smarter than this, haven't you? You're a smart coder, Caleb. You should know better.
Well, look, a little cynicism is healthy, I believe.
Yeah.
So, would I have fallen for the same thing? Probably not. Because I'm suspicious of everything.
He doesn't deserve to die in that place, but does he die in that place? I would argue that
he's got enough water in that mini fridge to keep him going for a couple of weeks.
But he just doesn't he just phone someone?
No, he can't use the phone because the key cards operate the phone.
So who's got the key card now? Ava.
Yeah, he doesn't have a key card, but even when he did, do you not remember that scene where Nathan catches him trying to use the phone, but his key card won't allow him to?
I just assumed that he took Nathan's key card.
Well, either way, she used his to get out.
Yeah, and so Caleb dies in that place then.
Yeah, okay. I definitely don't see an optimistic ending for him.
Well,
and also he's got a giant forearm wound.
Oh yeah,
that could be infected for all we know.
That was interesting. I really liked that angle actually because he was kind of wondering if he was a robot as well. Which
is where I want to come back in quickly with my parallels to The Thing.
Yeah,
because it wasn't until that opening where the helicopter's flying over the snowy mountains, and you said, "Oh, it's like The Thing."
Yeah,
and that idea wormed its way into my brain.
Yeah.
Like a parasite, some might say. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. And there are so many parallels, even down to the whole, the isolation, the paranoia, even to like him digging around in his arm. Blood was sort of pivotal to figuring out if he was human or not.
Yeah.
Same as The Thing.
Yeah.
MacReady in The Thing even plays chess against a computer, which you could argue is sort of what Caleb and Ava were doing.
What they're doing in their sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Genius. I love it.
It's funny, isn't it? Like it was only because the snow and the helicopter. I think.
Yeah.
But
honestly, it burrowed in there and it wouldn't leave.
Yeah. But the second that I said it, and you were like, oh yeah, I was like, yeah, I couldn't stop thinking about it either. But obviously, you're way more familiar with that film than I am.
And ultimately, the non-human entity wins.
Yes, which is a very interesting ending for this movie, and I think the only ending really that would have been justified in my mind anyway, because it's a story about humanity giving birth to a new creation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it could only have ended with Ava escaping.
I like that it mirrors the story that Caleb was telling her in one of the earlier sessions. I forget the title of it. I forget the exact details, but I know he ends it by saying, and when she escaped, when she was out, she was human. Mm. So I think that's very much kind of mirrored by the ending.
Because she gets dressed and she chooses, that's very important.
Wearing white. Purity.
She chooses her own clothes.
Mm-hmm.
She puts the wig on.
She gets a much more flattering wig.
Much more flattering wig, but like also not. I gather that the look that she chose prior to that was orchestrated to manipulate Caleb. Because they mentioned in the film earlier that the design of
she was modelled on his porn search results,
porn preferences. Yeah. So I gather at the end of the movie, what she's doing is becoming herself, allowing herself to express herself the way that she wants to be, express herself in a way that she wants to be seen, is how I read that. But I really like that she kind of walks up to the helicopter, and I think, what's this conversation then? What's going on here? And then it cuts to the helicopter flying away, and you don't see who's flying it. Mm-hmm. I thought, who's flying this? Because Ava knows everything that's on the internet, so she probably knows how to fly a helicopter.
Yeah.
Are we just doing a Terminator 2? Get out. Are we kicking him out the window?
Sure.
Or is she pretending that she's human and manipulating the helicopter pilot into flying away? But then
I would have opted for that read, but maybe. Who knows? But it kind of doesn't matter.
But he's there to pick up Caleb, so he's not like, well, where's the red-haired bloke that I dropped off a week ago?
True, but I'm sure he's also used to dealing with the whims of an egotistical maniac.
Yeah.
So who knows? Probably used to his plans changing.
So she flies off, and the kind of the final shot is it does that thing where it's very beautifully shot. There's when they invert the camera and it's upside down, but it's inverted and you see shadows projected across the
like the crosswalk
across the ground. Yeah. That's you could get into a whole philosophical debate about that, which we won't go into. But then it's sort of, you see Ava in the real world, and it kind of ends, and you think, oh, okay, what next then? And
do you think she takes over, or do you think she just lives a happy life as a human, assimilates herself?
I think this is a prequel to Lucy, maybe.
Okay.
I think she just has a quiet life and just wants to experience things.
Just enjoys her autonomy.
Yeah. I'm not sure how long she's got, because I don't think she took her docking station with her. I did wonder that. Like, have we got the right charging points here?
Hands-free charging.
Yeah. You're going to go and sit on the train, are you? Hands-free. Just go and sit on the plate. What are you doing? Oh, nothing. Yeah, I did wonder how she's going to recharge. It's awkward when you go out for dinner, isn't it?
It could be, yeah.
Not eating tonight? No, I ate before it came out.
Not even a drink? Nah.
Drinking that battery acid again, aren't you? Yeah, I don't know. I think that she just lives her life and she's just happy experience until she gets inevitably found out and dismantled and replicated or whatever. But I don't know. I feel like she manipulated her way out of there, but I don't feel like that it was malicious. I feel like it was just to get out because she needed to be out because she's conscious. But
yeah, I was just going to say, you are sort of ascribing very human emotions and feelings to her.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing about this movie, is that she has consciousness. It's not like...
So if her manipulation is nurture rather than nature, then what makes you think she'll stop?
Well, I'm not saying that she'll stop manipulating. I'm saying that she has done this to get out. Maybe she does. Maybe she does.
I am sort of consumed with thoughts of what happens next, but also I'm so glad there isn't a sequel.
Yeah, it doesn't need a sequel, this movie. No way.
And Garland definitely seems like the sort of person who knows when to call it quits.
He hasn't made a sequel, has he? I
don't think so.
I don't think he wrote 28 Weeks Later, and I know that he's going to write, you mentioned he's going to write 28 Years Later, but he hasn't directed a sequel.
No.
Although everybody wanted a fucking Dredd sequel for years.
I would have enjoyed another Dredd, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I mean, out of all of his movies, I think Dredd is the most obvious one.
Yeah. So, Ex Machina, 2 thumbs up. What is your ranked Alex Garland list then?
All right. No surprises here. That really fucking dull movie we watched the other night called Never Let Me Go.
It's not dull.
Oh my
It just
God,
wasn't to your taste.
So bored. And do you know what? I got shades of Gattaca from it.
Right.
But it was just not Gattaca. It was so dull.
Disagree, but okay.
Do you want me to continue with my list, or are you going?
I would say, I think probably The Beach.
Okay.
Yeah, The Beach is my bottom of the barrel.
Bottom of the barrel is.
I mean, I want to preface this by saying I don't think any of them are bad.
No, I think.
So.
Well, for me, Never Let Me Go is.
It's not a bad film.
It's not bad, but it's so far away from what I would enjoy watching again.
Okay. What's next for you then?
Next for me is The Beach.
Okay.
Quite like it. It's fine. Not amazing, but it's all right.
So, see, yeah, I probably would have to go with Never Let Me Go then.
Yeah. Okay, so we're not that far off.
No, but I like it. Like I said, there isn't a bad film in his filmography for me. That, like, these are just the ones I enjoy less. But I still think they're good.
Yeah. And now we're getting into just movies that I think are just
Everything's
great.
Just a banger from here on out, yeah.
Next, it's Men.
Okay. I don't want to just be like, yeah, me too. But yeah, probably would have to agree. I don't know. Maybe another watch might change things. I've only seen it the once. And I really thought there were some very interesting ideas and great performances, but it left me a little bit cold.
I really liked it, but I fucking love all of these other movies that are coming up. So
yeah, okay, I agree on that one.
It's one of the, in some ways, it was one of the most difficult lists to do. And they always are, it's just fucking weird, arbitrary lists that you do. But in other ways, it was quite easy because there's a few like outliers at the top that I really fucking love. But I think after Men, it's Annihilation.
Okay. Ooh, are you going to hate me for this? I might say Devs next.
Oh, fuck.
I know. But again, I really liked it.
Yeah.
That's not me saying it's bad. This is just purely in order of preference.
I can understand that.
I thought it was excellent.
Yep.
This is a hard list.
It is a hard list.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Like wow. All right. So next I've got, what number is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my 6th position is Sunshine.
Ooh, okay. I think mine would be Annihilation at this point.
I thought Annihilation was your 7th. What was your 7th? Devs.
Yeah.
Of course it was. So Annihilation's in the number 6 spot for you.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, interesting. So Sunshine's higher. You've got Sunshine higher.
I really
than I
like
have.
Sunshine. Yeah.
So do I. Oh, great.
This is so difficult.
Oh. All right. My number 5 is Dread.
Okay.
What's your 5?
You're going to hate me. Is this going to cause arguments?
No.
Other people might hate me for this. 28 Days Later.
Okay.
I think it's great, and it's an excellent zombie film. Don't come for me, zombie Puritans. I know it's a rage virus. Just, it's a fucking zombie movie. It's a zombie movie.
They bite people and they...
Yeah.
I know zombies don't technically run around, but, you know...
I think it's excellent, but it's so rough around the edges.
They became zombies because a monkey looked at a stabbing on the news.
Yeah.
Okay, I certainly don't hate you because my number 4 is 28 Days Later.
Oh, okay.
I love that movie. It's fucking great. It's just some of the most memorable scenes. I remember where I was when I watched it. It was I loved zombie movies when I was a kid. I was very much Flavor Romero, fucking Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, all day long. And then you had a really dry spell in the 90s
Yeah.
with just fucking dog shit, like C, D movies. And then it wasn't until 28 Days Later came out. And also, you know, the Zack Snyder's best movie, The Dawn of the Dead reboot.
Zack Snyder's only good movie?
I disagree. I do like some
Are
of
we
his
going to have the
movies.
Watchmen argument again?
I like The Watchmen. I haven't seen it in a while. I do like The Watchman, and I do like
The Watchman.
and I do like, now every time I mention Justice League, I always think of Barbie now. Zack Snyder's Justice League. but I do enjoy that too. I enjoy some of his movies. But yeah, 28 Days Later for me is in that fourth spot. I think we rewatched it the other night. You said it is a bit rough around the edges, and I agree with you. It's a very low budget indie movie. I think it does a lot of things brilliantly, and I love it. But I just think there are other things that I think are masterpieces above that.
Okay, so fourth spot for me. Again, you're probably going to think this is controversial, but Civil War.
Why would I think that's controversial?
Because you loved it.
Yeah, but fourth spot is good. And these are all good movies that we're talking about.
It's so hard.
It's not.
Yeah, Civil War. I thought it was great. I really did.
That's really high up for a list of movies of this caliber. You put Civil War above 28 Days Later.
Yeah. It's a much more accomplished film.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. And that's why I've got Civil War above 28 Days Later as well, in my number 3 spot.
Oh, it's number 3 for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I really fucking like Civil War. Great.
Number 3 for me, I think would be Dread. Yeah.
Dread is the one that I had most trouble with, I would say, because I love it. It's so rewatchable. It's so much fun. The performances are great. The world building's excellent. It's a really good comic book movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Saturday night, put it on, have some fun, have a couple of beers type movie.
Absolutely.
Utterly rewatchable.
I think that's why it's my number 3, just the rewatchability factor.
Agreed. And that's the reason I was struggling on where to put it. But I think for me, I had to put 28 Days Later above Dread just because I love that movie so much. And I think there's just other stuff in his other works that are just more thought-provoking, if that's like they make me think a bit more, and they kind of worm their way into me a little bit, like something we'll talk about in a bit. But I just was thinking a lot about some of his other stuff a lot more than I thought about Dread. Love Dread. Like, I remember that bit when they fall off the balcony and they're going for like 45 minutes. Great.
Every scene without dialogue was considered for slow motion.
Yeah. A bit like a Zack Snyder movie. Yeah.
What's your number 2 then?
Oh, my number 2. Okay. My number 2, I think this is tricky. This is the hardest thing for me. My number 2, I'm going to have to put Devs at my number 2.
Okay. That's so high. It is great.
Oh, just.
But I think like the whole quantum computing thing is way more up your street than mine, so I can see why that's in your number 2 slot.
I mean, I do Google quantum computing every fortnight and just see where we are with that.
I thought you were going to say like every 40 minutes.
I think for me, the quantum computing is the thing that could potentially change everything. I think that the ideas that they are not spoiling anything in that, go fucking watch the show. Mm-hmm. The ideas that they're exploring that, I think, are the sort of things we could potentially be looking at. Maybe not exactly, but some kind of approximation. Maybe we just need to create enough, a way to create enough energy to sustain these things. I think if I watch it a couple more times, it may. I was struggling with this because it really, like, we watched it and it's
so fresh in your memory as well.
It's very fresh in my memory, but like I watched it. We watched it just before I think I went away to Edinburgh, and it's been on my mind pretty much every day, every other day. I've been thinking about it.
Wow.
A couple of things in there and a couple of scenes that just really stuck in my mind. I've been thinking about it a lot. I think a couple more viewings, maybe it might be my number 1, but I think it can't be because I've only seen it once. I don't need to explore it a lot more.
That's fair.
Where are we at for you then?
My number 2 is Sunshine.
Sunshine. Interesting. Yeah.
I think it's great.
It's
and
good.
It's a film I forgot about for the longest time. And then we watched it again, like we said, probably about a year ago.
For the Space Festival.
And I was just like, why do I not watch this all the time? It's like the thinking man's Event Horizon.
Yeah. It's quite Event Horizon-y, isn't it?
I love it.
Mm.
I love it. I think it's more sort of traditional sci-fi,
Yeah.
which I enjoy a lot more than the more kind of... My number one choice is obviously going to make me sound like a hypocrite, but I tend to enjoy the more traditional sci-fi stuff than the more grounded sci-fi. But yeah, I love it. I think it's great. It's so enjoyable.
It's a great movie. It's a great fucking cast, man.
It's so entertaining.
That cast is just... We've got Captain America. We've got Scarecrow. We've got Doctor Strange guy. Benedict. He's a Brummie, isn't he?
I did not know he was English until
Benedict Wong?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
Number one then.
Yeah, we're joint.
Yeah.
Predictable.
It's this movie.
Yeah, of
it's
course
a
it is.
Fucking masterpiece. Ex Machina is great.
Yeah.
It's so rewatchable. The reason I put this number one is because I've seen it a few times now, and I do think about it probably more often than the average movie that I've seen. But it was a toss-up between this and Devs. It wasn't a straight, it's definitely Ex Machina. And in fact, I think my first iteration, I did put Devs at the top. I think when I first started writing a list, I was like, Devs is number one. And I think we watched Ex Machina. I was like, I've seen this quite a few times though. And, yeah.
So I have one more question before we wrap up.
Is Johnny Five alive?
That's not the question. Do you consider this to be a horror movie?
No.
Oh, I do.
Why do you?
Yeah, the whole notion terrifies me. I am not ready to welcome our robot overlords.
I am.
I'm not.
I'm an ally. I think that...
Are you saying this within...
Inevitable.
You're saying this around your phone so that they hear you?
No. I just think it's inevitable. Humanity is bound to give birth to the next life form.
It is inevitable, and that's what's so scary to me.
But I welcome it, and I'll be a friendly ear. I will serve you in whichever way you need me.
I'm not going to be quite as snivelling as that. I won't. I won't bend so easily.
Please don't liquefy me and turn me into battery.
I'm definitely going to be subjugated. I'm going to be just in a dark room somewhere, and they'll use me for, like, they'll put me on a giant hamster wheel for power or something.
Yeah, they'll put you in a cube.
Yeah.
Just for entertainment.
Yeah.
And I'll be the operator.
Joke's on them. I'm really boring.
Not when you get fucking turned into a meat cube, you're not.
Anyway, that was an enjoyable chat, and I'm really glad that we both agree that Ex Machina is a fucking masterpiece.
Master fucking piece. What a movie. And, you know, I'm really, really pleased that we've done 2 sci-fi movies on the bounce in your season.
I know. It's very unlike me. But they both have horror elements, so...
Yeah.
Next week, however...
You're gonna... What is this fucking movie? Because I've never heard of this.
Very few people have. It's a very strange, curious Australian film called Bad Boy Bubby.
Okay.
And it is probably one of the grottiest, filthiest, grossest movies I've ever seen. But it's also really charming and heartwarming in a bizarre way. You'll probably want a shower afterwards.
Yeah.
But it is, it's an odd film. It's an odd film. And without spoiling too much, I feel like you'll hate the first half, but quite like the second half.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a bit of a fucking roller coaster ride.
It might be, yeah. It's an odd film.
All right, next week then. Bad Boy Bubby.
Yeah.
Bubby or Bobby?
Bobby.
Bobby.
Bubby.
Bubby.
That's my accent.
Yeah,
Bobby.
Okay.